And so, the incident is coming to an end. The incident riddled with absurdity, with nonsense, with sheer irrationality, is about to lower its curtain. An incident smaller than Hope's Peak Academy's biggest, most tragic event. Smaller than the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. An incident so small it doesn't even have a name. The world will never know what happened here. Not now, not in the distant future. As long as they remain here.
Apparently they've finished the preparations. We can leave any time.
Then, I guess we should get going.
Hey Makoto, is this really okay? You're the one who said, leave the questions to me, so I let you take the lead. Are they really going to be okay? Didn't they just turn back into ultimate despair?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, if they did turn back, they wouldn't have said that they'd stay on this island.
Perhaps they're thinking about helping their sleeping friends?
I can't really say for sure, but that's what I believe.
Whether they know it or not, the fact that they're already clinging to that feeling shows they're no longer who they were in the past.
It seems that there are too many soft-hearted people here.
But in reality, the possibility of those who are asleep waking up is close to zero.
No, the possibility isn't a problem. Even if there's the smallest possibility, they're still trying to create that future for themselves. In their eyes, that is the future.
The smallest possibility. You might as well call it a miracle.
Strangely enough, I have a feeling that they'll be able to reach it. They've accepted their hopes and their despair, and they're trying to create their own future. Maybe, for people like that, miracles are inevitable. Don't you think?
As cheesy as ever. Seriously, you haven't grown up at all.
Haven't grown up?
That's the main reason we decided to come with you.
Well, who cares? I guess I'll respect your decision. This time. However, what comes next is going to be difficult for us.
Leaving them on this island. If the higher-ups at HQ find out about this, it will definitely cause a scene.
We need to work on concealing it.
That's not a problem.
And what do you intend to explain to HQ?
About that. I was gonna think about it while I was on the ship.
Good luck. I'm not going to help you that much.
Huh? Why?
You should at least be glad that we decided to respect your decision.
Fine.
Then let's go back as well. We're not even close to finished yet. There's still a lot we must do. Besides the Future Foundation, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history is not finished. We must end this once and for all, for the sake of the future.
It seems I must fight alongside you all for a little while longer.
Plus, there's someone waiting for you to return.
Oh, is it Toko?
Don't make me remember something so horrifying.
Then let's go. We must create our own futures too.
And so, the ordeal has ended. And from here, our daily lives have started. Lives that are much more absurd, nonsensical, and irrational than before. Things are probably going to be a lot more difficult now. There's no such thing as an answered mystery. It's doubtful whether or not things will even end well. The future isn't a path. It's like an endless sea. You can try to go anywhere. but it doesn't mean you'll get there. Even so, I will keep on living. I will keep on living as Hajime Hinata. My future lies here.
Epilogue. The day before the future. Let's enjoy the music for a bit, and then we'll debrief and look over the bonuses. Oh, they said ultimate swindler instead of imposter. I like how they colored Monokuma's name. This picture is so funny. The way it's cropped. Why are they highlighting Teru's mom? I got a present. Easter egg. Looks like a tablet where Alter Ego appeared. I got another present. The Usami strap. I also got Danganronpa If.
Danganronpa.
Okay, so we unlocked two different things. One is this island mode. So remember the first game had school life mode? It's kind of the same thing, where it's like an alternate world where basically you just catch up on everyone's social links that you missed out in the main game, and then you can also do like this time management sim, and then you're supposed to kind of complete it over multiple runs, and then there's an ending. So we'll be doing that on another stream. This is actually a light novel, Danganronpa If. I like how it's just written by that amazing writer. This is like a side story, and so it mostly has to do with the first game, more so than the second game, but you unlock it by beating the second game. So I'll also be spending a stream looking at this as well, because we're going to read it through. I think it should only take one stream to read all the way through. So those are two things we're still going to need to do once we finish up. And then shortly, we will be looking at the extras menu, where we have the event gallery, the movie gallery, the artwork gallery, sound gallery. Oh, I like this picture, actually. Remember iPod commercials? Remember iPod commercials? And then you can still buy things at the vending machine and the Mono machine here. Okay, but first I want to talk about this game a little bit. So this game, I think, is a big step up over the first game in multiple ways. Like, not only, I mean, yeah, they got a little bit more budget to make the animations and the like executions a little bit more elaborate, but like overall, I think most people agree that the cast of this game is just a little bit more likable than the first game altogether. And then on top of that, I think the mysteries are better. First of all, most of the characters actually use their ultimate talents in some way or another. There's only a couple characters that don't really end up using their ultimate talent at all. But in the first game, like, I'd say like over half the cast didn't use their ultimate talent in any meaningful way whatsoever. So I like that they actually use that, mostly as a plot device for the murders this time. I think the murders also had more twists and turns. There were a lot more red herrings, and there were a lot more times where you're not really sure where this is going, and then they surprise you with something. Even the very first chapter has a big, like, red herring heel turn in it compared to the first game, and I really appreciate that. It's almost like when you play the Ace Attorney games, right? The first couple games, the tutorial mission is like super straightforward and kind of boring to do, especially if you've played the other games before. And then after that, the tutorial missions are actually still very interesting despite being tutorials, and that's kind of what they do here. So I really appreciate that. Now that we've also finished the game, we can look back at a lot of the previous events of the game and think about them. For example, a lot of the weird things happening on the island that seemed unexplainable, like the despair disease, Monokuma's special poison, the Monokuma rock, things like that that seemed really weird and out of place, makes sense now knowing it's a virtual world. Also, Chapter 3, remember, Mikan murdered because her personality reverted back to what they were with the school memories. And she seemed like a completely different person, right? And she seemed obsessed with her beloved, which we now know is Junko Enoshima. And we also now know that everyone was like that. Everyone except for Chiaki, had they regained their school memories, would have been like that Mikan. They would have been ultimate despair. So now explains why Chapter 3 was the way it was, even though it's been a long time coming since we last saw that. Now, the thing with, like, Fat Byakuya at the beginning is obviously some kind of, like, ploy to fascinate people coming from the first game, and also the fact that, you know, Nagito and Makoto share the same voice actors in each language, and also the fact that Nagito's name is basically an anagram of Makoto's name. These are all just things to throw you off, right? Now that we know that the Fat Byakuya is an imposter, but obviously they made it humorous by making him fat and claiming that he's like the ultimate imposter, despite the fact that he didn't really look like who we were thinking of. But he picked up on the mannerisms. We saw that he actually took on his voice, because he has his own voice at the very end. But that also kind of leads you to the question of, like, so whose personality was he adopting? Was he trying to be like the real Byakuya by being a leader, or was that part of his actual personality to take on the leadership role and protect everyone? These things are kind of left up to your interpretation, which I think is kind of cool. Just like how the ending of this game is also, in many ways, left up to your interpretation, which I'll talk about in a bit. We also know Chiaki's reason now for why she wasn't able to tell us more about the Future Foundation, right? Because she was programmed by them. She's an AI, so she was limited in what she could do. The way that she talked about her father and her older brother, but she had never met them, refers to Chihiro and alter ego as well. I also can't stop thinking about how ironic everything Nagito really did, right? Because he wanted to embody hope. He wanted to bring hope and, like, basically accelerate us forward by creating despair to be a stepping stone. But then the second he learns the truth, right, he treats Hajime badly because he knows that he's part of the reserve department, and he also tries to kill everyone because he knows they're all ultimate despair except for Chiaki. But then ultimately, his movements end up doing the exact opposite. He kills Chiaki, the only member of not ultimate despair, and then he also, not only does he mistreat Hajime because he's not an ultimate, but it turns out that Hajime actually was an ultimate. He was actually the ultimate, right? Which is so many different layers of irony, dramatic irony, to work off of what Nagito was doing. But Nagito was such an interesting character because he was like a rival to us in a different way than Byakuya was in the first game. And the fact that he shows his cards with the very first chapter that he is murderous, right? But yet we can't do anything about that directly. And then he becomes like a constant hindrance, but also a helper during the trials sometimes, I think makes for such an interesting dynamic that made him much more interesting than Byakuya in the first game. I am kind of sad about Monomi, though, playing through this game again, because we're basically never nice to her, and she basically actually only had our best interests at heart the entire time, even though she was super shady and suspicious and annoying. But like, we don't really thank her or think about her at all, and then she gets executed with Chiaki, and then no one really thinks about her at all, and she even comes at the very end and defeats Junko. I feel really bad about that, actually. The fact that Monomi doesn't ever get any accolades. But you can, I guess, like, Chiaki gets a lot of accolades, but maybe the two of them are kind of extensions of one another in a way. But it's just kind of sad the way you play back through this game after having already beaten it and then realizing how horribly they actually all treat her, and they never really reflect upon that. I think that's kind of sad. Also, I want to say, because the ultimate despairs means that these guys were actually the bad guys from the first games, from behind the scenes, right? And I can see how a lot of their talents would be useful for people trying to take over the world, right? Like, you know, an ultimate gymnast, she's obviously very good at fighting. She could be like, you know, like a spy, you know, like Marvel's Black Widow kind of thing. I can see that. Or like an ultimate chef being able to feed their army of evil despairs or poison people or whatever. Or like the ability of a princess to be a figurehead. So like a lot of these, I could, in my mind, I can think of a way to make them work as a villain somehow, right? But then I think about, like, what about Hiyoko? She's the ultimate traditional dancer. What the hell does an ultimate despair need with the power of traditional dancing? I know if you go into like the Danganronpa extra materials, there's like a part where Despair Hiyoko and Despair Ibuki put on like a concert to rally the forces of despair to raise their fighting morale. But to me, it's like, that's pretty much mostly Ibuki. Let's not kid ourselves. A traditional dancer's not going to be able to do it that well. So I think of all the talents, hers is kind of the one where it's like, how does this make her an ultimate despair? How does she utilize this as an ultimate despair besides rallying people with Ibuki's help? It just seems a little bit silly, but just ignore that part, I guess, for the sake of plot reasons. But it's just something to think about that I think is kind of silly. Playing the ending here again, I'm okay with the ending, and I think it offers a really interesting choice compared to the first game where it was just like, do we leave the school where it's dangerous outside or stay inside? Compared to this one where they had a much more complicated decision, like, do we lose our sense of self to stop Junko, or like, do we stay in here in purgatory forever and trap the Future Foundation members? I think that choice is much more interesting and much more like conflicting. But the fact of the matter is, this chapter that we just did today was mostly just Junko, Makoto, and Hajime talking, and Fuyuhiko does a little bit more talking, but like Akane and Sonia and Kazuichi don't really talk that much. They kind of interject here and there, and then at the very end, we help Hajime overcome his self-doubt, and then we fight Junko, and then just suddenly, the other four start to agree with us, which it was a very nice moment, especially after the conversation we had with Chiaki. But I'm thinking about in the first game where Makoto has to convince all the other surviving like schoolmates that it's the right decision, and he has to do that through the non-stop debate mechanic where you have to suck up the bullet and then shoot hope back at them, and then you convince them one by one. But here it was almost like Chiaki convinced Hajime fought off Junko, and then suddenly everyone agreed with his point of view. And they made some good speeches, but it was like Sonia made a good speech, and then Fuyuhiko made an emotional plea involving Peko that was shorter than Sonia's speech. And then Akane and Kazuichi's speeches are very short. They're just like, yeah, we decided to do this. So, I don't know, I feel like I'm not as convinced that everyone banded together at the end, but that being said, I do like this final 5 more than the final 6 from the previous game, just because I'm not a big fan of Yasuhiro. Toko's, you know, kind of interesting, and Asahina, like, I didn't dislike her, but I didn't really have any specific feelings about her besides her friendship with Sakura. So I just feel like even though I like the final cast in this game more than the first game, I feel like a lot of them didn't do as much during the last chapter now that I'm replaying it, which is kind of interesting. Not to say that the ending was better or worse than the previous game, but it's just kind of strange, which I will talk about the ending in a little bit because there's a lot of things to say about the ending here. Gameplay wise, this game for the most part I enjoyed, but 2 of the minigames they changed from the first game didn't work so well. Improved Hangman's Gambit is definitely not an improvement. It feels more stressful to do. They don't give you any letters to start with, so if you don't know what they're trying to make you say, it's a little confusing at the beginning. Especially if in your head you know what they want you to say, but you don't know how to word it or which exact phrasing or words they're looking for. And then it seems like impossible to get a perfect score on those things unless you, I don't know, max out all your skills and put them back into that one. So Improved Hangman's Gambit sucked. And if I recall correctly, it's been a while, but in the next game, they actually rework it, but like better, I think. Same goes for Panic Talk Action. In the previous game, Panic Talk Action was a rhythm game. You hit the button, X, 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 and then occasionally square or triangle, X, 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 square, square, X, X, triangle. It felt like a rhythm game, but in this game, they change it. Their goal was to simplify it, so you press less buttons. But at the end of so they tried to make it so everything was mapped to the X button, but you still had to reload. So they introduced the square button later. So the only thing you're missing is the triangle button, which is kind of weird. But not only that, in their efforts to make it so you don't use the X button, you have to hold down the button between presses. So it's no longer a rhythm game. Well, it kind of is, but it's also like you have to hit it on the note and then you have to hold it and release it on another note. It just felt really clumsy to do compared to the the rhythm game of the first game. And I think in the next game they fix that and revert back, but I don't really remember. It's been a while, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But I think those 2 minigames kind of sucked. The crossing swords minigame was okay, but towards the end there were some ones that were a little difficult where it's like, it's very easy to run out of cuts unless you had the skill, and if you didn't, well, good luck on you. And there were times where it was kind of like not cutting in the right direction because of the way the joystick is mapped to do that one. So I like the idea of that minigame, but it needs a little bit of refining, which I think they do that in the next one, but I don't remember. So overall, the gameplay in this one, I think 2 of the minigames got worse, and then everything else was kind of better. They had less of the absorbing mechanic, which I appreciate. I like that there's an agreeing mechanic, because sometimes it makes more sense to agree with someone than to disagree, and that just made more sense to do. So overall, I think it was an improvement, but those 2 minigames just kind of wrecked everything for me, personally. I dreaded doing them. The Logic Dive, I do like. Logic Dive, I think, is a good one. It's kind of like when you play Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, they introduce like the synapse or whatever. Like that one is kind of the same idea, and I like it because it allows for some different plot twists that they weren't able to really do in the first game. So that's why I feel gameplay-wise. Now, when it comes to the story, you might notice this game ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, or not exactly a cliffhanger, but it's a little bit ambiguous, right? We don't know, did they revert back to ultimate despair? What happened to everyone that died? Are they still alive? Are they in vegetation states? Are they able to be revived? At the time that this game came out, we didn't know, right? It was all left to our imagination, which I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's kind of open. You can kind of form your own headcanons about what happens there. But now that it's been a few years and there's so much more Danganronpa material and there's like an expanded universe, I can tell you that if you're interested in the characters from this game or the characters from the first game and you want to see more of them and find out what happens, there is an answer for you. And I will show you with this handy dandy chart that I found from Reddit. I was actually going to make a chart myself, but then I found out someone had already made something on Reddit, and I was like, well, I might as well just reuse that, because sure, I could expand upon it, make it better and prettier, but did I have time for that? No. So this is the picture. I know it's kind of small, but I'll tell you what it really means. The Danganronpa games, there's 3 main games, and there's 1 spin-off game, and then there's a bunch of side materials. There's like anime adaptations, there's like visual novels, there's like light novels, there's all sorts of things to do. If you want more of these characters, specifically from the first and second game, there's an answer for you. And in fact, there is a conclusion to the story. And it is a little confusing, so I'm going to explain it to you. So, we have Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, that's the first game, followed by Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, which, again, we're also getting Danganronpa 2x2 next year, which is going to be an alternate scenario for this game, which they can clearly do because the reason why they probably picked this game not only is because it's the most well-received of the 3, but it's also because this game happens in a simulation, right? So that means other things could technically happen, and it might not change the overall universe. Now, after this game came out, another game came out called Danganronpa Another Episode Ultra Despair Girls. This is a spin-off game. It actually takes place between Danganronpa 1 and 2, but it's better played after Danganronpa 2 because it will spoil things from both of those games. It does not play like the other Danganronpa games. It's a spin-off, but it's like an action third-person shooter game instead of an investigation trials game, which is why I was not really a fan and actually did not play it, but we will be playing it on stream in the future, probably after we finish 2x2 sometime. Even if I don't really want to, but I will. But Ultra Despair Girls, you can actually skip that game if you want. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really add, not to say it doesn't add anything to the universe, but if you don't play it, it doesn't really take away from your experience of the greater Danganronpa universe, which is why it's okay to skip, and that's why it's like a spin-off. Now, you might think that after Danganronpa 2, the next game in the series is called Danganronpa 3. That is not correct, confusingly enough. The next game is actually called Danganronpa V3. And there's a couple reasons for that, which I won't go into right now, but one of the reasons behind that is because there is an anime called Danganronpa 3. The anime of Danganronpa 3 does not cover the events in Danganronpa V3. In other words, the third game in the series is not is not in the Danganronpa 3 anime. Danganronpa 3 is actually an anime that concludes the story of Danganronpa 1 and 2. It has 2 arcs. It has a despair arc and a future arc. And basically, the despair arc goes over what happens to all our beloved characters when they were back in school, when they were in Hope's Peak Academy, before Danganronpa 1. So if you want to see their school life, you can do that. And there's also the future arc, the future arc is basically what happens after Danganronpa 2. Basically, what happens to Hajime and his friends after this game. So, you can actually get some actual closure about what happens and what happened to all their friends who died in this game. Now, I will say, Danganronpa 3 is further confusing because it is divided into these two arcs, but the two arcs are not meant to be watched in isolation. You're not supposed to watch all of the Despair arc and then watch all of the Future arc. You're actually supposed to watch them concurrently. When Danganronpa 3 was airing, in the same week, they released Despair arc episode 1 and Future arc episode 1 in the same week. And then the next week would be Despair episode 2 and Future episode 2. So you're actually supposed to watch them back and forth. You're supposed to go like Future Despair, Future Despair, Future Despair, not Future, 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 Despair, Despair, Despair. So depending on which streaming platform you're watching it on, they may or may not set up the episodes in the right order, so you might have to do that yourself because the episodes will spoil each other if you do them in a weird order. So for those of you that were like, oh no, my favorite character in this game died and I want to see more of them, Danganronpa 3 is your answer. Or Danganronpa 2x2, which will come out next year. Which is interesting because, again, I'm not sure what this new scenario is going to do. Obviously, the new scenario is going to be more catered towards people who have played the original game, but it will also be accessible to people at the beginning who had not played it. On top of that, what new mysteries could they add for the conclusion, right? I guess we'll have to see. And then we have the next game, Danganronpa V3, and Danganronpa V3 does reference things that happens in the previous two games, but it's an entirely new cast and otherwise not connected to the previous games. So that's why we have to make the distinction between Danganronpa 3 and Danganronpa V3. And then there's all sorts of like side novels, like there's Danganronpa 0, which takes place before all this happened and goes over the most tragic event in human history. There's a side novel for Kyoko Kirigiri. There's a side novel for Byakuya. There's a side novel for, there's a side OVA about Nagito. So there's like all this other material stuff. So if you really want to sink your fangs into all this stuff, I've not gone over all of it, but you can. It exists. Part of me kind of is like, okay, well, I like this series. It's good. There's more. But part of me is also kind of like, I kind of wish it was just 3 games and not all this extra stuff. Because if you didn't know all this, you wouldn't know. Anyways, I just think that's neat. And again, we will wait until next year to play 2x2 when it comes out. Then after that, we'll probably play Ultra Despair Girls, and then we'll play V3. Does that kind of make sense? Anyways, you can look at that stuff up on your own if you want. I just think it's kind of interesting that there's all this other extra stuff for you to look at. But that being said, again, we're going to get this other game 2x2, and I don't know what to really expect from that going forward. And I'm sure it'll be good in some way, shape, or form, but I'm not sure. I think it is interesting that these games always like have things for people coming back from the previous games. So like this game, for example, in the first chapter, we have, Fat Byakuya, and then we also have the mystery of Nagito sharing a lot of similarities with Makoto to keep us engaged. And then they use the same setup, like the surveillance cameras and stuff, but then they subvert it because they use it differently than before. So it is nice for that. I'm kind of mixed on Junko returning. I think it makes sense for her to return in the way they did, but also at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm tired of seeing Junko. Can we move on and find a new antagonist? But I get it. Another thing I will say about this game that I like more than the first game too is that the first 5 chapters are actually their own cases. Because in the previous game, chapter 5 and 6 was like one big case, but I like that in this game, like chapter 5 was actually its own case, and we also got an execution for every chapter. The previous game, chapter 4 and chapter 5 didn't really have their own executions in a way. So in this game, it actually felt like we got executions every chapter, even if the final one was just Usami beating up AI Junko in a comical fashion. So I think it is an improvement over that in that sense. We got more cases out of it. And actually, I think case 5 in this game was really good. Very sad and emotional and awful. On top of that, also this game plays with your expectations from the first game. They even point that out. Oh, it's like, oh, the first case was self-defense. The second one was serial killer. Third one was double killings. Fourth one was about honor. So I like that they kind of play with our expectations there a little bit. it's kind of like even if you play like Raincoat, for example, it plays with our expectations in these games to pull off a plot twist near the end, right? 100 Line also pulls off plot twists that they're expecting Danganronpa players to experience. But then the problem is if you go into these games without experiencing the previous games, then these twists don't mean anything to you, right? So it's a bit of a give and take. I think that's mostly what I want to say about these on a game sense. I made a list of notes, but I think that's pretty much it. Let's look at the extras. Maybe I'll think of some of these as we go. So the event gallery is all like the video sections. Most of these we've already seen, so I don't need to go over them again. There were a lot more CGs in this game too, compared to the previous one. Oh man, actually look at how small that scroll bar is. I will go a little faster. I do, just like with all Kodaka works, I don't appreciate the overuse of the juvenile humor. And there were times in this game where they really didn't like let off, like where they didn't make use of it too much, but then there's some parts where they do it too much. Anything involving Teru and then later on Kazuichi is a little bit too much, and I don't really like that. But it was still bearable compared to 100 Line, which overuses it way too much. But I don't know. Also, I really like Fuyuhiko's character development. I think they did a really good job with him specifically. And really early on too, like it starts after chapter 2, which is quite early. But I think they really made it work. Of course, Gundam's still my favorite character, and then maybe Chiaki and Fuyuhiko are somewhere tied afterwards. And then Nagito I just find a fascinating character. I wouldn't say that I like him, but I think he's very fascinating. Oh yeah, also the way they changed the comic at the end of each chapter is a little bit of a give and take as well. On one hand, the fact that they only give you a couple panels at a time is helpful, but then the fact that they give you extras and the panels don't go in order is a little bit tricky. So there's also like, so this is probably a scene you get from finishing the extra mode of the game. And then these are bonus sequences that we got throughout our playthrough that required you to bring certain items to certain parts of the game. But we got all of them, which is good. Even though some of them were kind of hard to get on your first playthrough on chapter 1 and 2, you really need to earn your Monokuma coins. I also like the hidden Monokumas was kind of nice addition as well, and a different way to get coins. But again, I think the pet option was kind of weird though. It's neat, but it just felt like a waste of time. But I'm sure there's people that enjoyed it. Oh, that's okay. That's event gallery, and this is movie gallery. Yeah, they definitely upped their game with the executions. I think for the most part, the executions were pretty good. Mikan's is weird, but there always has to be at least one weird one. Since I saved all my coins, that means we can actually buy all these. Actually, I'll buy them all first. Then we can flip through them. And honestly, some of these were like really emotional too. Like, I think chapter 2 in particular was very emotional for me, and chapter 5 even more so. These faces are so funny. But I think the way they integrated the character personalities with the mysteries and also the emotional impacts of the game is really a testament to, at its base, how good like the overall structure, story, and writing was. that you can get invested into it and really like feel sad for these characters. I would just personally remove some of the juvenile humor, but I know that's part of Kodaka's thing. Okay, so we have like concept art. Again, Hajime's design is pretty like standard. It's not like something too flashy, probably because he is the main character. I do have his tie. I said this before. I bought his tie as official merch because they actually sold it as official merch. And again, it's like a normal tie, but it's got a cool design. I do kind of like how they draw the eyes overall in this series. Like, it works in this game specifically, the way every time they zoom in on Hinata's eyes, they look like they have little, like, reticles or, like, targets on them, which I think is kind of neat. And, of course, his most defining feature is the ahoge. Don't display UI, okay. I can't just press L1, R1 to tap through them. Nagito as well, like, he was basically created to be like, what if we had Makoto, but Makoto was a bad guy? What if his hope went in the other direction? And I think they nailed it with the idea of that. And of course, he shares the same voice actors in Japanese and English. And I do like at the beginning, he seems like a nice guy, and then he like fakes you out. And they reveal it pretty early on, but then they make good use of it later on. His jacket's pretty cool as well. It's got those random like splotches on it. There's all these like little extra details on it. His hair is kind of crazy, but I think that's part of his defining features as well. And when he smiles and looks kind of gentle and you don't know he's crazy maniac, it does kind of trick you. Again, the fact that they brought back Byakuya as this to like basically poke fun at him and also like give us a little treat, it makes me like him a little more, because I didn't really like him in the first game as much. And I know this is not him, we ultimately find out, but it's kind of funny and charming. And the way they write it in a way to mislead us into thinking that this is him after his character growth from the first game. He takes on a leadership position, he wants to protect everyone. But again, it brings up the question, like, how much of that was actually this imposter's actual personality, or how much was he just pretending? Because he really goes out of his way to try to protect everyone and ends up dying in the process, right? He's really quite an interesting character, actually. But again, the whole fact that he's just tricking us at the beginning to be Byakuya, even though he obviously doesn't look like him in that way, is obviously just an Easter egg for people coming in to give us some intrigue, and ultimately leads to nowhere. And again, how can he be the ultimate imposter if he, you know, doesn't really look exactly like the people he's impersonating? I mean, I guess he has a passing resemblance to Byakuya if he, you know, gains some weight, but on top of that, he changed his voice, and he also doesn't have his own identity, so I guess that's how they explain it. It's more of an in-universe gag than anything, I think. Gundam's just cool. Obviously, they just made him be Chuny. He's just cool, but I think I like how well they bring his over-the-top personality in, but then they don't overdo it by not giving him, like, excessive screen time sometimes. Looking back, it's like, he kind of says something memorable, then he kind of disappears again, and then he says something memorable again. But I really like the way they wrote him. And obviously, I like characters that have, like, scarves as well. It just looks cool. And then, of course, we have his hamsters. They're so cute. I like how they're all different shapes. The fact that they picked these, of all animals they could have picked for him to use to be like his little companions, they picked hamsters. It's so funny. They're so cute. I kind of forgot how, well, his hair is crazy under that hat. I kind of forgot how annoying Kazuichi is. Like, at first I was kind of like, oh, he's bearable, but then it gets to like chapter 3 and 4 where he starts making like really like inappropriate comments towards Sonya, and it's like, oh, maybe you're almost as bad as Teru, honestly. I completely forgot. Like, I knew he was perverted, but man. But I do like his mechanics outfit. I think like mechanics outfits are fun to use in character designs, especially because you can put like paint splotches or buttons and pins and decals and badges on them, so that's kind of fun. He adds a different like color palette to the entire cast as well. And you know, from the first Danganronpa game, we always have to have a couple idiots in the final group, right? And he fills that out with Akane, I guess. Again, it also kind of felt sad because Hajime felt bad about Chiaki and misses her. And Sonia mentions that too, but then Kazuichi and Akane I felt like didn't really have much of a connection to Chiaki, and Fuyuhiko was too busy thinking about Peko, so I feel like they should have had more time with Chiaki and the others. It's a common style for Rui Komatsuki to have like one character who's kind of like this body type, kind of short and stout. Like we saw that with what's his name in 100 Line as well, and we'll see that in Danganronpa V3 as well. Teru, I forgot just how bad his perversion was at the beginning, but I think it's because I forgot because his time in the game is short-lived, which is good because if we had to listen to him say some of those things for the whole game, it'd be awful. But then Kazuichi kind of takes up his mantle. He does have a fun design though, and the fact that they kind of like pull off the red herring and switch to him is kind of clever, and he sets the mood for that first execution pretty well. Nekomaru, I just can't get over this guy. I mean, not only does he not look like a high schooler, but playing the game again now, it's like how often he talked about shit all the time. I knew he did it a little bit here and there. I don't remember it being like 90% of everything he says is about shit. Plus the fact that they really make his pants really tight. Like, they make it really tight. And the fact is, when he turns into a robot, they stop doing that entirely. His robot pants are not even as tight as these. It's a little unnerving, but luckily you mostly see him from the top up. I do like how he's perpetually being like electrocuted. That's an interesting trait, especially for someone who's presumably a normal human being, other than the fact that he's ultimate, but like he's not non-human, but he's always like being electrocuted, not just in a couple strikes, but like all the time. Interesting design choice. But again, I like how a lot of these designs aren't over the top, in the sense that like they don't overdo it with the accessories. Like you look a lot of times nowadays, you know, with gacha games and VTubers and stuff, there's a tendency now to over design and make things too complicated. But here it's like they include just enough of what they need to get across the idea of what they are and their personality. See what I mean? His pants are like not tight at all here. The robot thing's a little ridiculous too. Oh yeah, that's another thing that makes more sense when you think about this being a simulation, right? Like how the hell did Monokuma bring him back as a robot? It makes a lot more sense when you realize it's just all a virtual world. I just wish there was more to his personality. I love Fuyuhiko's design. I mean, the whole idea of him being like mafia, but he's got a baby face, and they go as far as to give him like a little blush is so fun. But he's also got like the undercut with the little like designs in his hair. And then of course later on with the eye patch, and his change of personality is quite the thing to see and experience. Even his eye patch has quite a detailed design now that they have these design documents in front of us. Pretty cool, actually. Oh, but man, the idea that like a bunch of the Ultimate Despairs basically chopped up Junko's body and took her body parts, and that one of them took her eyeball, and they showed a picture of someone who kind of looks like Fuyuhiko. It's kind of like maybe that eyeball isn't his in the real world anymore. I don't get Akane. Obviously, she's there to be the impulsive character and another one of the idiots at the end, but like the idea that they made her a gymnast, but then her whole thing's about fighting people and also having an acute sense of smell is kind of... I think they could have gone a different direction with her ability. And obviously she's kind of supposed to be a little bit fan servicey as well. But playing through the game again, I kind of realized again, like, I felt kind of neutral to her before, but I think I kind of dislike her more. I think mostly just because of that moment in Chapter 4 where Fuyuhiko pulls her aside to say something really nice and genuine and caring to her, and then she is too stupid to understand it. And it takes her, like, quite a few chapters for her character development to take place. The whole thing about her wanting to fight, and then Nekomaru sacrificing himself to protect her not once, but twice, but maybe even 3 times if you want to think of it that way. And she still doesn't really get it until, like, Chapter 5, maybe, compared to, like, Fuyuhiko, whose character development after the events of Chapter 2 switches really quickly. I just feel like it was a little frustrating to me to see her be like that, and then it's not really her fault, it's more like the writer's fault. I really like Chiaki, and a big part of it is because of what she does in Chapter 5 and 6. I love characters that are able to be selfless and sacrifice themselves for the sake of other people. And honestly, at the beginning of the game, it was hard to tell who was the main female at the beginning. It was kind of like, is it Chiaki or Sonia? Because during the first opening sequence, they're both kind of prominent in the happy opening of the game. Because in the first game, obviously you have like Sayaka, who's very obviously the initial female protagonist, and it's very quickly Kyoko afterwards. But in this game, I think Chiaki took a little bit more time to kind of rise the ranks. The fact that also this game we don't have a Kyoko to help us out and hold our hand through the trials made the trials more interesting. Even though a lot of times it was Chiaki and Nagito helping us out, but it just felt like it wasn't just one person dominating the trials and leading everyone, so I like her, and her design's pretty good too. Sonya, of course, being super elegant here. It's interesting because she's one of the characters where in her full body artwork, they actually use a different artwork for her. And curiously enough, I don't see those artworks here in the art gallery. I guess we'll see as we go through them, because in the first game, the art gallery not only had the design documents, but also had their full body, like, splash arts and the bonus artworks, and I'm not seeing those here in this gallery. These are only the design documents. Kyoko, again, she was like on the cusp of getting some character development, and then she dies. And even after that, she like starts to revert just a little bit. Like you see her trying to be a little bit nicer to people, but then she quickly, once the despair disease kicks back in, she starts being rotten to everyone else again. And I know you kind of need a character to create friction with the group and stuff like that too, and it's at odds with her personality. But I know some people like her for that type of personality. It's not really my thing. Her design's nice though. There's a lot of extra details, like anything that's like, you know, kimonos and yukatas with all these fancy designs is pretty cool. I like Mahiro's design too. Again, it's kind of like plain, but not completely plain. There's still things to it. Like she's got an interesting design on her tie. She's got little like emblems and pins on her outfit and stuff. Her being a photographer, you know, it's kind of a less flamboyant talent, so it makes sense for her to be dressed more like this. I want to find out more about her and maybe see if she has more in the next game. Again, there's things about her that I like, but then I feel like some things the writers hammered a little bit too hard. Like, for example, her being sexist all the time. I know it's tied into her past and stuff like that too, but because she dies, she never really has a chance to reconcile that. It's not as bad as the first game though, where chapter 2 of the first game was really about like toxic masculinity, but then for the rest of the game, everyone still makes like gendered comments for the rest of the game. They do that less in this game, but it still happens from here and there. Mikan's hair is so interesting. Anytime that Komatsuki draws like big hair like this, it's always interesting. I like her design as well. Kind of a weird direction they took with her character, but I guess someone needed to do it for that despair disease thing. It was a good twist though. Definitely at the beginning didn't suspect her as it went along. I think the idea of the person messing with the autopsy report is a good trope that we see in Ace Attorney as well sometimes. And the way that she always has that like sad look on her eyes. I feel like personally for me, Ibuki's design has too much going on, but I know she's like, because she's going with like the light rock music kind of like stereotype, and the way her hair has all these different colors and streaks, I personally feel like there's a little bit too much in the upper part of her design with her hair. But she's an interesting enough character in design-wise, at least. The little like, you know, ripped bits of her fabric and all that stuff ties into her personality and the way she, you know, represents the ultimate musician pretty well. I personally just not a fan of her hair. The horns, the streaks of multiple colors, not really my thing. Heko's an interesting character. I like her, mostly because of like what we saw in chapter 2. I can't stop thinking about the protagonist of Persona 4 when he's doing the cross-dressing competition though, when I see her. The red eyes, I think, are very striking, and the fact that they accent her with the necktie and the armband is really nice. They even went so far as to add all these like details to the sheath on her sword, which is not a detail you'll really see in the game. And of course, this is more of a to throw us off for people that have played from the first game. It kind of creeps me out now seeing her sprite in high definition, that you can kind of see her eyes inside the eyes of the mask. Because when this game was on the Vita, it was kind of hard to see that because the sprites are smaller. The fact that they give the mask that she picks like also the one with the tongue coming out is a choice. This is funny. Why did they pick this? This must be like an inside joke with the staff. whoever this is, they chose to model the patient gowns. Monomi, what gets me about her design, and obviously it's because of Monokuma, like, defacing her, is the fact that she has the diaper and the giant belly button really kind of disturbs me. Like, obviously, like, this one is the supposed appearance for her normally. It is cool they took time to, like, make full designs of these enemies, too. And I guess if you play them, the Monomi minigame, you'll see them a little bit more, but they only really appear in a couple cutscenes. They have those single, like, renders of them. But they put quite a bit of detail into these guys, and they're all different animals and stuff, too. The snake design's pretty neat, actually. Just like a tiger with a gun. Of course, you gotta have a bird one. Both his talons are Gatling guns. I like how this is just called human. It is humanoid, I guess. I don't know what else I would call it. Giant. Cyclops. He does have a bit of some kind of helmet on that's broken. And then I like how they have design documents for these guys. They're so cute and happy. You get them when you do the Mono machine, but they're also enemies in the Monomi mode. Look at him doing a little jig. I don't even know what this one's supposed to be. Cat, I guess? This one's kind of cute. He kind of looks like a Spiny from Mario. This guy's like a Diglett. He looks so dorky in the bottom. Looks like he's like smelling bubbles or something like that, but I know they're just showing off the different layers of his eyes or whatever. There's actually a lot of these little guys. I kind of almost forgot that there was that Monomi mode in the game at all. It's like a Pokemon. Oh, this one's bigger than the other one. Like, these will all be really good mascots. It's a shame they're only really used here. And they all have a little bit of like pixelated design to them, which is kind of neat. This is just Gomamon, I think. Oh, height comparison. Oh, she is a lot shorter than him than I thought. I know it's the ears that also give the illusion, but... Oh wait, this is kind of cool. Concept art for like the different islands. This is like a full, like, high-def version with very many details. And of course, this was made before generative AI, so you can't say this is generative AI, but it has the feel of what a lot of generative AI tries to copy, I think, but obviously more refined. The stuff that generative AI tries to train off to try to replicate. I really love background concept art. I don't see it often enough. Get an entire concept art just for the shower room? I mean, it makes sense that this exists. Why is this the second one on the list, though? Supermarket. The beach. I still don't understand why they named this Titty Typhoon. I mean, I kind of get it, but also, like... Why? This hotel and restaurant look really nice, though. I would vacation there if it wasn't for all the murders and stuff. Hey, this one just straight up not used. Why is there like a Gundam or a Transformer hidden inside this? Again, why is there so much bathroom concept art? Nekomaru must have put this here. This is from the chapter 1. Like, look at all the stuff in the kitchen they had to draw. a lot more locations in this game, I feel. And locations had a lot more to them than the first game, because of the way they have it set up in islands instead of just one building. The realistic cow is so funny. It reminds me of one of those like meme YouTube videos where they play the music, you just see the cows dancing. Here's the artwork for the executions. I do like how stylized these title cards are. This was a alternate version. So these are not the versions they used. Yeah, Mikan's is the weird one. Oh, of course you got the pixel art. Oh, I like how they have Mekamaru and Nekomaru. Usami and also Monomi. Fuyuhiko with and without eye patch. For some reason, Hajime has 2. I guess to even out the numbers. Monokuma Theater is always interesting too. I also appreciate the intermissions in the middle of the trials, actually. That was kind of nice. Okay, the Wizard of Monomi was only one small section of one chapter, and they had to design all these things. Monokuma has such interesting expressions, though. He is a very good mascot, I think. And also a very good villain. The old people. I'm actually disappointed this is all that's in the art gallery, because the first game, again, had not only the concept art for the characters, but also their full body splash art. And this game doesn't have the full body splash art, or even like, you know, before we start a trial, it shows everyone's like face panels. They don't have that art either. I'm a little disappointed it's not here. Because they have it, it exists, they just decided not to put it here. Yeah, I'm not gonna go over the sound gallery, but again, it's kind of funny how they have the iPod silhouettes. I'm not gonna go and unlock all the music, but I'll at least scroll through them. The music is good in these games, always, consistently. Wait, they even have Kyoko. And Jungo, Oh, and Makoto. That's cute.
Danganronpa.
Of course, we can still roll the vending machine. I might do a little bit more of that just because we have so many coins left over. I mean, you can still buy more presents here if you want to use them in the options mode. Okay, let's do a little bit more of this. Let's see if I can get the percentage up to like 80 or something. I guess the nice thing is we didn't, in the first game, we had to, between every chapter, I'd come here and spend all my coins. And in this game, I didn't need to do that as much because you could buy things from the shop, and also because you needed specific items for specific cutscenes. So in that sense, I kind of like that a bit more. But the extra cutscenes were kind of a pain. But man, I'm disappointed there's less concept art to unlock. If I put like a few coins at once, it doesn't really raise the percent that much. I think I'm better off just doing a whole horde of things, because I'll need these gifts for island mode later. At least it rolls the items a lot faster than the previous game. I just wish there was an option to do more than one roll at a time. Also, this game didn't have like a secret bad ending like the previous game. Even at times where I thought there might be, and you select it and the game just redirects you to select something else. We're at 70% now. try to get to 80%, or if I'm down to 300 coins, whichever comes first. Or maybe 350. 300 might be too much. Unless you just want to show off all the different pixel arts they have in this game as much as I can. I don't even know what some of these items are. I'll have to look them up on the list later. You know, we actually got quite a few of them, despite the fact we didn't roll too many items in this playthrough, because I was always saving for the special items. Is this the riveting gameplay you guys came here for? Was that a chameleon with the ribbon? That was cute. I'll get more of those jump at the frogs. Like, is that a VHS I'm getting? Are those bell-bottom pants? Thank you for the focus mode. I got focus as I roll these presents. Oh, 80%. Let's look at what we got. Cinnamon tea. Brightly colored jeans. They're not jeans, they're jean pants. They don't look that brightly colored. Spy spike. Passionate glasses. The laser will come out of your butt. Interesting. Radio Sund. An infrared thermometer. Pearlian photography. Mesopotamia. Wait, is this a slinky? The second button. Another battle. It is a VHS. 1,000 cherry blossoms. Stardust. Century pottery. Absolute tuning fork. A broken warhead. A weapon of mass destruction. Great. I'd love to have this as a present. Oh, it's Hagakuri's crystal ball. I realized during the trial I accidentally called him Yasuke instead of Yasuhiro. Shows how much I care about him. So the Usami strap unlocks the island mode, which apparently is more fun than the actual game, according to this. And then here's Danganronpa If, which we will be reading later, which is also more fun than the actual game. Wow. I like how there's this like pixelated version of the Ultimate Soldier here. You could barely make out what it is. Oh, an Easter egg. Proof that you cleared the epilogue. Sam, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for following and being a vlogging friend.
Danganronpa.
I won't bother trying to get all the rest of those. Are there any here that I have not gotten at all? Oh, I never got... Wait, I never got sunflower seeds. Well, I don't know who I need these for. Oh, bandage wrap. Missed this one. Oh, I must have given the sunflower seeds to Gundam already, right?
Danganronpa.
Okay, there's a lot to talk about. I think this game had a lot more to debrief and talk about than the previous one, for me, personally. But also, I was disappointed by the concept art gallery, just because it had less than the first game did. The first game had so much, including characters that weren't even in the game, like characters that were only in the side novels and stuff. And this game didn't have that much for the concept art. But that's okay, you guys can look it all up on your own as well. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I think it also helped that I played this game, like, I took breaks between some of the chapters. Although sometimes coming back to the game, I was like, oh, I gotta relearn how to play the minigame again. But I felt like it was a little better because then I could save my voice. And again, because I like the characters more in this game than the previous game. But I think that was kind of nice to be able to do that as well. So again, I probably, other than doing island mode and the novel version of this game, or the novel mode of this game, which will be 2 more streams coming later on, the next time we play Danganronpa will probably be Danganronpa 2x2, whenever that decides to come out in 2027. Then after that, we can do another episode and Danganronpa V3 as well. I would like to get through all of them eventually, but I do need to pace myself as well. That being said, tomorrow we are playing some Grand Blue Fantasy Relink Endless Ragnarok with our friend Onario. And then later this week, I'll probably do Island mode and the novel mode, but I don't know if I'll do them right away. I do want to do them so that all the VODs come out close to each other on YouTube, so thumbnails can be together. But I probably want to take a little bit of a break of this game first before we get to doing that. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey, whether it was your first time going through Danganronpa 2, or whether it was a replay for you. I hope you enjoyed revisiting it, because I did. I think, again, after we played like Rain Code and 100 Line, I was afraid that coming back to the Danganronpa series that maybe it wasn't as good as I remember, but no, I think it still is good. I mean, yeah, I still don't like the perverted jokes everywhere, but I think overall the story still really held up, and the gameplay held up pretty well. Let's see who's on right now that we can put raid. If anyone's on right now. Looks like a few people are on. Let's go say hi to our friend. Hopefully he's not ending soon. Yeah, let's go say hi to our friend Sir Alex. He's playing some Genshin Impact. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for some more Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Till then, fight on, froggy friends.